A moving story of redemption, love, passions, and new beginnings she ran away to forget. But the millionaire discovered the secret she was hiding up her sleeve. A marked arm, a sharp question. Who did this to you? What begins with fear turns into a forbidden romance that could cost you your freedom or your life. Watch this story until the end. You will be surprised by this story. If you like love stories, romance, subscribe to this channel, leave your comment. Every day we post videos like this. Continuing. The rain fell on Montevilla as if the sky wanted to wash away the sins of the world, but Jana Villar knew that some stains were permanent. She pressed her face against the fogged-up window of the bus, watching the landscape grow wilder and wilder as they drove away from civilization. 3 days of travel. 3 days to convince herself that she was doing the right thing. 3 days to try to forget the sound of his voice on the phone. You can't run away from me forever, daughter. God has shown me where you are. The driver dropped her off at the entrance to the village, a faded sign that read, Montevilla, population 847. She gripped the handle of her suitcase tightly, feeling the worn leather cut into her palm. The pain felt good. The pain kept her present, here now, away from the past that haunted her like a hungry shadow. The house was at the end of the main street, up a cobblestone path that wound between ancient eucalyptus trees. Her cousin Isabel had left the keys, with the neighbor, a white-haired lady who looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and pity. No one has lived there for 2 years, the woman said, handing over the heavy keys. Donna Isabel always said that one day someone from the family would come. You look just like she did when she was young. Jana just nodded and walked on. The mansion loomed through the trees like a Gothic apparition. 3 stories of dark stone, tall windows covered in ivy, and a balcony that ran all the way around the ground floor. It was exactly as Isabel had described in her letters, a place where time stood still, where a person could disappear completely. The keys rattled in the door. Rusty lock. The door groaned open, revealing a marble-floored foyer covered in a fine layer of dust. The smell was of old wood, books, and something sweet she couldn't quite identify. Dried roses, perhaps. She left her suitcase on the floor and explored. The ground floor. A living room with furniture covered in white sheets, a library with bookshelves that went from floor to ceiling, an old but functional kitchen. The bedrooms were on the 2nd floor, and she chose the smallest one facing the back of the house. She didn't want to see the road. She didn't want to see who might be arriving. The first week passed in silence. She cleaned the house with meticulous obsession, as if each dusted piece of furniture, each cleaned window, was a step away from what she had left behind. She discovered that Isabel had a taste for books. The shelves contained Brazilian classics, French novels, philosophy books, and even some treatises on medicinal plants. Jana developed a routine, waking up with the sun, making coffee, reading in the library until dusk. It was during the 2nd week that he arrived. She was in the library, bare feet curled up in the leather chair, when she heard the sound of a car coming up the driveway. Her heart raced. She ran to the front window and saw a black BMW pulling up in the driveway. It wasn't the car she'd been dreading. Worse, it was an expensive, official car, the kind owned by people who asked questions. The man who got out of the car didn't look like a cop. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and covered in a dark blazer, his black hair slightly tousled by the wind. He looked at the house with the expression of someone returning home after a long trip. Then he took a key out of his pocket. Jana ran down, the marble steps nearly tripping over the hem of her sweatpants. She opened the door before he could use the key. "Who are you?" The voice came out more aggressive than intended. He stopped, the key still in the air, and studied her with dark grey eyes. "Dante Aragon. This is my home." "Your house?" Jana felt the world spin slightly. "That's not possible. Isabel told me I could stay here." "Isabel was my aunt." He put away the key and stepped forward. Jana instinctively recoiled. "And you are?" "Jana Villar. Isabel was my mother's cousin." Dante nodded slowly, as if processing the information. "Isabel always talked about a niece who might need the house one day." I imagine you are that niece. Embarrassment burned Jana's cheeks. I didn't know you existed. Isabel never mentioned she had a nephew. If I had known, you would have come anyway. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. He was watching her with an intensity that made her feel transparent. Desperate people don't have many options. The word desperate hit her like a slap. I'm not desperate. No. He walked up the porch steps, stopping a few feet away from her. So what are you? A tourist who decided to vacation in an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere? Jana crossed her arms, instinctively hiding her left arm. And you? What's a businessman doing in an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere? His expression changed imperceptibly. A muscle tensed in his jaw. Maybe I'm desperate too. They stared at each other in silence. Jana felt something strange in her stomach, a mixture of fear and curiosity. There was something about him that she recognized in herself. The weight of running away from something. The house is big, he said finally. We can share. Dante raised an eyebrow. Are you inviting me to stay in my own home? I am suggesting a practical solution to a complicated problem. He almost smiled. Almost. Okay, I'll take the master bedroom. You can stay where you are. How do you know where I am? Your suitcase is in the back room. I saw it through the window. Jana felt exposed again. Do you have a habit of spying on people? Only when they're living in my house without permission. There was something provocative in his voice, but not malicious. It was as if he were testing how far he could go. Jana wondered how many people dared to challenge him. From the way he carried himself, she guessed few. I'll make some coffee, she said, turning to go into the house. Jana, his voice made her stop. Why are you hiding your arm? The blood froze in her veins. Slowly, she turned around. I'm not hiding anything. It is. Ever since you opened the door, you haven't stopped keeping your left arm behind your body. Maybe I'm left-handed and don't like gesturing. Maybe. He studied her for a moment longer. But I'd say you're hiding something, and since we're going to be sharing this house, maybe we should establish some ground rules. What kind of rules? No unnecessary questions, no judgments, no excessive curiosity about each other's past. Jana felt unexpected relief. I agree. Great. He grabbed a leather suitcase from the back seat of the car. One last thing. Don't answer the phone. Don't open the door to strangers. And if anyone comes looking for me, you haven't seen me. Why not? He stopped halfway up the stairs, not turning around. Because some people are better kept in the past. That night, Jana lay awake listening to the sounds of the house adjusting to the presence of another person. Footsteps upstairs, the shower running, a door closing. She wondered what kind of trouble he was avoiding, what kind of past had brought him here. The answer came in part the next day when she went downstairs for coffee and found newspapers spread out on the kitchen table. The headlines were in Portuguese, but also in English and Spanish. Businessman investigated over death of partner. Dante Aragon from success to suspicion. Aragon Holdings under investigation. She read it quickly. Dante was the CEO of a business consulting firm that restructured companies in crisis. His partner, Ricardo Vasconcelos, had been found dead in his apartment 3 weeks earlier. It appeared to be a suicide, but there were inconsistencies that raised suspicions. The company was being investigated for possible money laundering and fraud. Dante was not officially a suspect, but his name appeared in every news report. Interesting morning reading? Jana jumped, knocking over her coffee cup. Dante stood in the doorway to the kitchen, wearing only jeans and a white t-shirt. She tried not to notice how the cotton hugged his broad chest, how the muscles in his arms bunched as he leaned against the doorframe. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. The newspapers were here and I was curious. He walked over and began to pick up the newspapers. It's only natural. Did you kill your partner? The question was out before she could stop herself. Dante stopped, a newspaper halfway to the pile. That's an unnecessary question, Jana. It's a valid question whether I'll share a house with you. He looked her in the eyes. No, I didn't kill Ricardo. But you know who killed him. Suspect. And Don't go to the police because I have no evidence, and because the person I suspect has connections that could turn suspicions into convictions. Jana nodded. She understood about people with dangerous connections. That's why you're here. Partially. Dante finished collecting the newspapers and threw them in the trash. And you? Why are you really here? Because sometimes running away is the only way to survive. Running away from what? Jana hesitated. There was something about the way he asked, no pressure, just genuine curiosity, that made her want to answer, but she wasn't ready, not yet. From someone who shouldn't exist in my life. Dante nodded as if he understood perfectly. An ex? Something like that. They sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Then Dante moved, walking past her to grab a cup from the cupboard. His arm brushed against hers by accident, and Jana had to restrain herself from visibly recoiling. You're afraid of being touched, he observed, but without judgment. No. The lie sounded false even to herself. Okay. He poured himself some coffee. One more rule then. No unnecessary physical contact. Thanks. No need to thank me. It's just a matter of respect. But Jana wondered if that was all. There was something about the way he'd backed away, too, as if he understood more about boundaries than most people. The days that followed established a strange routine. They shared the common spaces with the courtesy of polite strangers, but there was an underlying tension that Jana couldn't ignore. Dante worked in his makeshift office on the 3rd floor, making phone calls in low voices and typing furiously on his laptop. She remained in the library, reading and making notes in the margins of books. It was on a Thursday that everything changed. Jana was climbing the stairs with a pile of books when she tripped on the last step. The books flew, she lost her balance, and suddenly strong arms grabbed her, pulling her against a solid chest. Careful, Dante murmured, his voice husky close to her ear. For a moment, Jana let herself feel the safety of his arms. Then reality came back to her like an electric shock. She struggled, trying to pull away, but the movement caused the sleeve of her blouse to ride up, revealing the skin of her left arm. Dante saw. She knew he saw because his arms tightened around her, and a low sound, almost a groan, escaped his throat. Jana. Let go of me. She pulled her sleeve down desperately, covering the purple marks and the jagged scar that stretched from her wrist to almost her elbow. Dante released her immediately, but didn't move away. Who did this to you? Nobody. I fell. You don't fall like that. His voice was different, lower, dangerous. Someone hurt you. It's none of your business. Yes, it is. He took a step closer. Any man who does that to a woman should be killed. The ferocity in his voice frightened her and oddly reassured her at the same time. Why do you care? Because I know what it's like to live with scars that won't go away. Jana really looked at him for the first time. She saw the fine lines around his eyes, the way he held his shoulders slightly tense, as if he were always bracing himself for an attack. What kind of brands? The invisible ones. He bent down and began to gather up the scattered books. Sometimes they're worse than the ones you can see. They're not. The answer came out harsh, fraught with years of pain. You have no idea. Dante stopped collecting the books and looked at her. So tell me. Why? Because maybe you need to tell someone, and I need to hear something worse than my own story. There was a brutal honesty in his answer that disarmed Jana's defenses. She sat on the step, hugging her knees. He said it was love, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. My father. He said God had shown him that I needed to be cleansed, that I carried my mother's sin. Dante sat down next to her, keeping enough distance so as not to touch her, but close enough for her to feel his presence. How old were you? It started when I was 12. It ended when I turned 18 and ran away. Jesus, Dante ran a hand through his hair. Did your followers know? Some, but my father. He had a way of convincing people that he was doing God's will. The community believed in him. My mother believed in him. And your mother left? Jana laughed, but it was a bitter sound. My mother helped him hold me. The silence that followed was heavy. Jana felt tears burning her eyes, but she held them back. She had already cried too much over that story. How did you escape? 1. Of the younger followers helped me. She had started to question things. She gave me money and fake documents. I left in the middle of the night and never came back. And he looked for you. For years. But I hid well. I changed my name, my city. I managed to finish my studies, get small jobs. I thought I was safe. Until now. Jana nodded. He found me. I don't know how, but he did. He called my apartment in Sao Paulo 3 weeks ago. He said God had shown him where I was. That I was his lost daughter and he was going to take me home. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. Dante was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he reached out toward her but stopped just inches from her skin. Can I? Jana looked at his hand, large with long, calloused fingers that spoke of manual labor at some point in his life. Slowly, she reached out her own hand until it touched his fingers. The contact was electric, not painful, not scary. Electric in a way she had never experienced before. You're brave, he said, lacing his fingers with hers. I'm not. If I were brave, I would have reported him years ago. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing what needs to be done in spite of the fear. Jana looked down at their clasped hands. His skin was warm, rough, real. And you, what's your story? Dante sighed. Ricardo wasn't just my partner. He was my best friend since college. He found out that someone was using our company to launder drug money. Someone with inside access. It wasn't my ex-wife, Elena. The name came out like a curse. She worked in the finance department. She had access to everything. When Ricardo found out, he told me. I confronted Elena. She denied everything, said Ricardo was making up stories because he had always been in love with her. Did you believe her? At first, Dante squeezed Jana's hand. Elena was always very convincing, but Ricardo kept investigating. He got evidence. The day he was going to show me the documents, he was found dead. And you think she... I know her. Elena has connections. Her father is a judge. The family has influence. She got the investigation directed at me. Why didn't you go to the police with your suspicions? Because I have no proof. Ricardo died before he could show me what he had discovered. Helena made sure all the trails led back to me. Jana felt a surge of anger on his behalf. So you ran away. I strategically stepped away. My lawyers are handling the situation while I look for a way to prove the truth. And found it? Dante looked her in the eyes. Not yet, but I'm not giving up. There was a determination in his voice that Jana recognized. It was the same one she felt when she thought about finally confronting the past. We're both running away, she said. Yes. But maybe running away isn't the solution. What do you mean? Jana stood up, still holding his hand. Maybe it's time to stop running. Dante stood up as well, standing very close to her. This is dangerous, Jana. I know. She looked him in the eyes. But I'm tired of being afraid. And I'm tired of being accused of crimes I didn't commit. They stood there halfway up the stairs, still holding hands, and Jana felt something shift between them. It wasn't just physical attraction, although that was definitely there. It was recognition. Two wounded people who had found in each other the possibility of healing. Jana, Dante said, his voice hoarse. Yes? If we stay here much longer, I'm going to kiss you. Her heart raced. And would that be a problem? It would be complicated. Why? Because you're afraid of being touched, and I'm afraid of hurting people I care about. I care about you too. The confession came out before she could think twice. Dante took a deep breath. This changes everything. I know. He let go of her hand and took a step back. Maybe we should take it slow. Jana felt a pang of rejection, but also of relief. He was right. It was all too fast, too intense. You are right. But Jana? Yes? When I said any man who hurts you should be killed, I meant it. The intensity in his voice made her shiver. Dante. Your father. If he shows up here, if he tries to take you, I'll kill him. Ah, you can't talk like that. I can and I will. Some people don't deserve to live. There was something in his expression that told Jana he wasn't exaggerating, and for the first time in years, she felt truly protected. Thank you, she whispered. No. Need to thank me. It's just a matter of principle. But Jana knew it was more than that. It was the beginning of something that could save them or destroy them completely. The days after the confession on the stairs brought a careful intimacy between Jana and Dante. They began to share meals, at first in silence, then with tentative conversations about books, about the views of the mountains, about small memories that didn't hurt too much to share. Jana discovered that Dante was a surprisingly good cook for a businessman accustomed to expensive restaurants, and he discovered that she had a low, genuine laugh when she felt safe. It was a Friday morning when Jana woke to the sound of a piano, coming from downstairs. She went downstairs barefoot, following the music to the living room she had not yet fully explored. Dante sat in front of a grand piano covered in a white cloth, his fingers gliding over the keys in a melancholy melody that seemed to tell a story of loss. She leaned against the doorframe, watching his broad back hunched over his instrument, his absolute concentration on his profile. There was something vulnerable about the way he played, as if music was the only language in which he could express certain emotions. The music stopped abruptly when he noticed her presence. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't wake. Up, it was beautiful. Jana walked into the room, her bare feet silent on the Persian rug. Did you compose it? No, it's Chopin, Nocturne No. 2. Dante swiveled on his stool, facing her. My mother used to play it when I was a kid. Used to? She died when I was 15. Cancer. He ran his fingers over the keys without pressing, producing only a whisper. Dove sound. After that, my father became different. Jana stepped closer. Different how? Violent. Drunk. He blamed everyone for her death, especially me. Why? Dante laughed, but it was a bitter sound. Because I was born premature. She had complications during childbirth. He always said that if she hadn't had me, she would have lived longer. That doesn't make medical sense. Violent men rarely make sense. Dante stood up from the bench. He hit me a lot, until I got big enough to hit him back. Jana felt her heart contract. How old were you? 17. The day I turned 18, I left home and never went back. He died 3 years later. Cirrhosis. I am really sorry. Don't be. He chose his own path. Dante stepped closer to her. But I understand why you're afraid of being touched by men. I had to learn that not all men are like my father. And did you succeed? Most of the time. He stopped a few inches from her. But sometimes when I get angry, I see him in me, and it scares me. Jana reached out and touched his chest, feeling his heart pounding beneath her palm. You're not him. How can you be sure? Because violent men don't care about being violent. They just are. Dante covered her hand with his. Are you sure about this? I am. She took a step closer. You're afraid of hurting me. My father never was. Jana, touch my face. What? Touch my face. I want to feel what it's like to be touched by someone who cares about me. Dante's breathing became ragged. Slowly he raised his free hand and touched her cheek with his fingertips. The touch was so gentle that she barely felt it, but it was enough to bring tears to her eyes. Does it hurt? He asked, already starting to pull his hand away. No. She held his wrist, keeping her hand against his face. It's healing. They stayed like that for a long moment, her eyes closed, his watching every change in her expression. Then Dante leaned down and kissed her forehead, the touch soft as a blessing. Thank you, he murmured against her skin. Why? For letting me touch you, for trusting me. Jana opened her eyes and found him so close she could count his dark eyelashes. Dante. Yes? I want to kiss you. His breathing stopped. Are you sure? I'm scared. But I want to. Then kiss me. Jana rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips against his. It was tentative at first, just a gentle, testing touch. Dante didn't move, letting her control the pace. Then she deepened the kiss, and he responded, with a softness that made her melt. When they separated, they were both breathing heavily. "How was it?" asked Dante. "Different." Jana smiled for the first time in weeks. "Good, different. Can I kiss you again?" He can. This time, it was he who initiated it, but still carefully, still attentive to any sign of discomfort. Jana gave herself over to the kiss, feeling something inside her warm and open like a flower that had been closed for a long time. They were interrupted by the sound of the phone ringing in Dante's office. He cursed under his breath. "Ignore." "It," Jana murmured against his lips. "I can't. You can be my lawyer." He kissed her once more quickly before running upstairs. Jana stood in the piano room, touching her lips and smiling. For the first time in years, she felt like a normal woman, a woman who could be desired and not just hurt. Her smile faded when she heard Dante's voice change tone upstairs. He was shouting. She walked slowly up the stairs, stopping at the door to the office. "That's impossible," Dante was saying into the phone. "How did she get a search warrant?" "On what basis?" Pause. "I see. When?" Another, longer pause. "Shit. Fine. Do what you can to delay." He hung up and stood there, hands resting on the table, head down. "What happened?" Jana asked. Dante turned. His expression was dark. "Elena. Managed to convince a judge that I have evidence hidden here. There's going to be a search of the house." "When?" "The day after tomorrow, Monday." Jana felt panic rise in her throat. "Will they find anything?" "There's nothing to find. But Eleanor is smart. She might have planted something." "As?" "She has a key. We were married. She knows this house." Jana's fear turned to anger. "Then we can't stay here." "I can't leave. If I run away now, they'll assume I'm guilty." "What if I stay?" "If I stay, I could be arrested based on fabricated evidence." Jana approached him. "Then we have to find the real evidence first." "Jana, this is dangerous. Elena is not just a betrayed woman. She is involved with dangerous people. And my father isn't dangerous." Her voice came out louder than she intended. "Dante, I've spent my whole life running from dangerous people. I'm tired of it." Dante studied her. "What are you suggesting?" "May we do what they don't expect. May we stop reacting and start acting." "That means find Elena, confront her, force her to admit the truth. She'll never admit it. Then we have to make her admit it." There was something in Jana's voice that made Dante take a step back. "Jana, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that people like Elena and my father only understand one language, strength. You are not a violent person." "No." She looked him in the eye. "But I'm learning to be a person who stands up for myself." Dante was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Fine. But we do this my way, planned, calculated." "I agree. And then we'll deal with your father." Jana felt a shiver. "Do you think he'll show up here?" "I'm sure he does. Men like him don't give up, especially when they feel like they're losing control." As if it was a dark omen, at that moment they heard the sound of glass being broken downstairs. Dante immediately pushed Jana behind him, grabbing a baseball bat he kept behind the door. "Stay here." "No. I'll go with you." "Jana." "Together." "Remember." He looked at her and nodded. "Together, but behind me." They walked downstairs in silence. The living room was in disarray. Furniture was overturned, papers were scattered, pictures were on the floor. The drawers of the antique desk were open, their contents spilled across the carpet. "Shit," Dante muttered. "Are they still here?" Jana whispered. "I don't know." They walked through the house, checking every room. The library had been ransacked too. Books were thrown on the floor, pages torn out. In the kitchen, the cabinets were open, dishes broken on the floor. It was in the entrance hall that they found the message. On the old mirror that stood near the door, written in red lipstick in large, uneven letters, "She's mine." Jana felt her legs go weak. Dante grabbed her arm. "It was him," she whispered. "My father. He found me." "How can you be sure?" "The words. He always said that. 'You're mine, Jana. God gave you to me.' That's how he justified everything." Dante looked around, assessing the damage. Was he looking for something or trying to scare you? "Both." Jana stepped away from the mirror. "He wants me to know he can find me anywhere, and he was probably looking for something he could use against me." "Like what?" "I don't know. Documents, photos, something that proves I'm his daughter." Dante frowned. "Why would that matter?" "Because—" Jana hesitated. There was something she had never told anyone. "Because I'm not just his daughter. I'm his heir." "Heiress of what?" "From the community, from the assets, from the money." She sat down heavily in a chair that was still standing. "My father built an empire out of the church. Property, investments, donations. It's all in the church's name, but legally, as the only child, I inherit if anything happens to him." Dante knelt in front of her. "How much money are we talking?" "Millions, tens of millions." "Jesus. That's why he wants me back. It's not just obsession, it's financial interest too. If I come back, I can sign documents transferring everything to him officially. If I die," she swallowed hard, "if I die, he inherits as next of kin." "That's why you never went to the police. It wasn't just fear. It was self-preservation. As long as I was in hiding, he couldn't force me to sign anything or kill me without arousing suspicion." Dante stood up and began pacing the room. "This changes everything." "Why?" "Because now he's in a hurry. If he found out where you are, others might find out too. Lawyers, authorities, journalists. He needs to sort this out soon." "Solve how?" "Or by convincing you to come back voluntarily." Dante stopped walking and looked at her. "Or by eliminating the problem." The silence that followed was heavy. Jana knew Dante was right. Her father had always been calculating behind the religious facade. "So what do we do?" First we get out of here. This house is no longer safe." "Where to?" "I have an idea, but first—" Dante walked closer to her. "Jana, there's something I need to tell you. About Elena." "What?" "She's not just my ex-wife. She was raised in an extremely conservative religious family. Her father has ties to several sects in Brazil." Jana felt her blood run cold. "Do you think—" "I don't think it's a coincidence that your father found you right after Elena found out you were here." "How did she find out?" "She must have had someone follow me or hacked my phone. She has resources. So they are working together." "It's possible." Dante sat down at the table across from her. "Elena wants to destroy me. Your father wants you back. Maybe they made a deal." Jana stood up abruptly. "I have to call someone." "For who?" "To the woman who helped me escape years ago, Sarah. If she's still alive, she might have information about my mother." "Your mother?" "In the news reports I read about my father's community, they never mentioned what happened to her. If she died, if she's still there—" Jana picked up the phone. "I need to know." "Jana, this could be dangerous. If you call, they might track it." "It's a risk I have to take." She dialed a number she still knew by heart after all these years. The phone rang several times before someone answered. "Hello?" The voice was that of an older, tired woman. "Sarah, it's Jana." The silence on the other end was long. Then, "Oh my God, Jana, where are you?" "It doesn't matter. Sarah, I need to know about my mother." "Your mother?" Sarah's voice grew even quieter. "Jana, your mother is alive." The world spun around Jana. "What?" "She's alive, but she's not—" "Well, her father keeps her on medication. He says she's been having nervous breakdowns since you left." "What kind of medication?" "Sedatives, antipsychotics. She barely recognizes people." Jana felt nauseous. "Where is she?" "In the main house of the community. There's a wing that your father calls the halfway house. That's where the people he wants to keep quiet stay." "Sarah, I need to get her out of there." "Jana, that's impossible. Security is very tight right now, and your mother, she might not recognize you." "I don't care. She's my mother." And there's something else. Sarah hesitated. Your father has announced that he's going to hold a special ceremony next week, a redemption ritual that will be broadcast online for all the faithful. He says it will bring back his lost daughter. Jana's blood ran cold. He's sure he'll find me. Jana, get out of the country, go far away. He has people everywhere looking for you. I can't run anymore, Sarah. Then you will die. The call was cut off. Jana stood there, holding the dead phone. What did she say? Dante asked. Jana told him everything. When she finished, Dante had a somber expression. Then we have a week, he said. For what? To end this. Elena, your father, this whole situation. Dante stepped closer to her. Jana, what I'm about to suggest is going to sound insane. Speak. We'll give them exactly what they want. I don't understand. You will return to your father's community. Dante, no. Listen to me. You will return, but not as the lost daughter. You will return as the heiress who has discovered her legal rights. This is suicide. Not if you're not alone. Dante took her hands in his. Jana, trust me, I have a plan. What kind of plan? The kind that will free your mother, destroy your father, and at the same time, give me the evidence I need against Elena. Because Elena won't resist the opportunity to be present when you're redeemed. She'll want to see you destroyed in person. Jana looked into his eyes. There was something there that both calmed and terrified her. What if it goes wrong? Then we die together. That's not very comforting. Dante smiled for the first time in days. But it's honest. Jana took a deep breath. Okay, but on one condition. Which? If I'm going to do this, I want one night. One night to be a normal woman with a man who wants me for who I am, not for what I represent or what I possess. Dante's expression changed. Jana, do you desire me? You know I do. Then show me tonight. Make me forget everything else. Dante stepped closer to her, so close that she could feel the heat from his body. Are you sure? I'm sure. If I'm going to die next week, I want to know what it's like to be loved first. You will not die. Promise? I promise. He touched her face with both hands. And I'll show you exactly what it's like to be loved. The promise in his voice made something tighten in Jana's lower belly. For the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of what was coming next. Outside the house, hidden among the trees, a grey-haired man watched the lights flicker in the windows. He smiled, revealing teeth yellowed by cigarette smoke. I found you, daughter, he muttered to himself. Daddy's coming. Night fell over Montevilla like a black veil, bringing with it a stillness that seemed unreal after the tension of the day. Jana stood in her room before the antique mirror, gazing at her own reflection. For the first time in years, she didn't see a victim staring back. She saw a woman who had made a decision. She had changed her clothes, choosing a simple dress. She had found in Isabel's closet a navy blue that brought out her eyes. It wasn't for vanity, it was for herself. For this one night when she would be just Jana, not the runaway daughter, not the threatened heiress, just a woman who wanted and was wanted. The soft knock on the door made her turn. Come in, she said, her voice firmer than she expected. Dante opened the door slowly. He had showered and changed into a simple white shirt and dark pants. But it was the look on his face that made her forget how to breathe. There was desire there, yes, but also something deeper, reverence, as if she were something precious that he was afraid to break. You look beautiful, he said, but he didn't move from the door. Aren't you going to come in? I will, I'm just making sure this is what you really want. Jana stepped closer to him, stopping just inches away. Dante, I spent 10 years of my life being touched by someone who claimed to love me but hurt me. I want to know what it's like to be touched by someone who truly cares about me. What if I don't know how to do this? What if I accidentally hurt you? She reached out and touched his chest, feeling his heart beating fast. Then stop, Tell me to stop. We stop. Is it that simple? It's as simple as that. Dante covered her hand with his. Jana, there's something I need to tell you before... Speak. I fell in love with you. The words fell between them like a whispered confession in church. Jana felt something tighten in her chest, a mixture of joy and terror. Me too, she whispered. I fell in love with you too. It was Dante who moved first, leaning in to kiss her, but this time it was different from the hesitant kisses of the morning. There was an urgency here, an awareness that there might not be another tomorrow. Jana responded with an intensity that surprised her, her hands rising to his hair, pulling him closer. When they broke apart to breathe, they were both panting. Are you sure? He asked again. Absolute. Dante picked her up, making her laugh softly. What is it? No one has ever carried me like this, like I was something valuable. You are the most valuable thing I have ever held in my hands. He carefully placed her on the bed, sitting beside her. Moonlight streamed in through the window, creating silvery patterns on both of their skin. Can I take off your dress? Asked. Jana nodded, but when he started moving his hands to the buttons, she grabbed his wrists. Dante, there are things you're going to see. Scars. Marks. They are part of you, and I love all of you. Even the broken parts. Especially the broken parts, because they show me how strong you are. Jana released his wrists. Dante slowly unbuttoned her dress, kissing each patch of skin that was revealed. When he saw the marks on her arm, the old scars on her shoulder, he paused for a moment. Then gently he kissed each one. You're perfect, he murmured against her skin. I am not. To me, you are. What followed was a slow dance of discovery. Dante touched her as if she were made of glass, attentive to every reaction, every breath. And Jana, for the first time in her life, allowed herself to feel pleasure without guilt, without fear, without pain. When they finally came together, it was with a tenderness that made her cry. Not out of sadness, but out of relief, out of gratitude, out of love. I love you, she whispered in his ear. I love you too, he replied, moving inside her with infinite care. And I will protect you. Always. They made love as if it were the first time in the world, as if they were the only two human beings left in the universe. And when they climaxed together, Jana felt something inside her heal in a way she had never imagined possible. Then, as they lay entwined, Dante traced lazy circles on her bare back. I don't regret it, Jana said. Ethan, you're welcome for coming here, for meeting you, for deciding to stop running, even knowing what we have to face tomorrow. Mainly because of that. She stood up to look him in the eye. Dante, if anything goes wrong, it won't work. But if it does, I want you to know that tonight, you gave me something I thought I would never have. What? The feeling of being truly loved. Dante pulled her into a long, deep kiss. Nothing will go wrong, I promise. But even as they made love, again more slowly this time, they both knew that some promises were beyond either of their control. Dawn came too soon. Jana woke up to find Dante already dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed watching her sleep. What time is it? She asked, her voice hoarse with sleep. 6 a.m. We have to go. Reality came crashing back in like a cold shower. Jana sat up, pulling the blanket over her body. Are you still sure about the plan? I do, but I want to go over it all again. Dante had spent the night on the phone with contacts Jana didn't know he had. People who owed him favors, who had information, who could arrange things that normal people couldn't arrange. My cousin Marcus is going to meet us on the road to the community, he explained as Jana dressed. He has hidden camera equipment. Microphones, everything we need to record the confession. What if my father suspects? He won't suspect because you'll arrive exactly as he expects, repentant, wanting to go home. And Elena? Elena will be there. I'm sure of it. She won't miss the opportunity to see me get destroyed. Dante checked his phone. My lawyer is on standby. The moment we have the recording, he'll go to court. Jana finished, getting ready, and turned to him. And my mother? That's the riskiest part. We'll have to improvise depending on where she is and what the conditions are. Dante. Jana held his hands. If anything happens to me, promise you'll get my mother out of there. Nothing will happen to you. Promise. Dante looked her in the eyes. I promise. The drive to the community took 4 hours. They stopped. Twice to meet with people Dante knew, fine-tuning the details of their plan. At the last stop, he gave Jana a simple necklace. What is that? Transmitter. Everything you say will be recorded and transmitted to Marcus, who will be hidden in the area. What if they find out? They won't find out. It looks like an ordinary necklace. Jana slipped the necklace on, feeling the small but significant weight against her skin. I'm ready. No, not yet. Dante stopped the car on the side of the road. Jana, look at me. She turned to him. No matter what your father says, no matter how he tries to manipulate you, remember, you are not that scared little girl anymore. You are a strong woman who has made a decision, and I will be there even if you can't see me. As? Marcus isn't the only one who'll be hiding. I have 3 more men positioned around the property. If things get out of hand, we'll come in. What? If you're too late. Dante cupped her face in his hands. We won't be too late. I won't lose you, not after I've finally found someone worth fighting for. They kissed one last time before Jana got out of the car. The plan was simple. She would walk to the entrance of the community alone, appearing to have finally given in. The Camino da Luz community was located on a 50-hectare property on the outskirts of a small town in the interior of Minas Gerais. Jana recognized the place immediately, even after almost 10 years. The high gates, the white walls, the carefully maintained gardens that hid the horrors of what happened inside. There were 2 guards at the entrance. They recognized her immediately. Jana. Welche, one of them said, speaking into the radio. She's here. I want to see my father, Jana said, keeping her voice steady. He's waiting for you. They walked along stone paths she remembered walking as a child. Everything seemed smaller now, less imposing, or maybe she had just grown up. The main house was a 2-story colonial building, painted white with blue accents. Waiting for her on the porch in a rocking chair was the man who had haunted her nightmares for almost 10 years. Pastor Elias Villar looked as if he had aged 2 decades in the last decade. His hair was completely white, his face was marked by deep wrinkles, but his eyes were the same, cold, calculating, hypnotically persuasive. My lost daughter, he said, rising from his chair. She's finally come home. Jana walked up the porch steps slowly. Dad. You've grown up. You've become more beautiful. He moved closer as if to hug her, but she instinctively stepped back. Where is my mother? Anna is resting. She was very shaken when you left. She had to be medicated. I want to see her. Sure, but first, we have to talk. There's a lot to sort out. Elias led her into the house. The main room was exactly as Jana remembered. Simple. Furniture, crucifixes on the walls, an atmosphere of enforced austerity. A woman sat in an armchair with her back to the door. Jana, I want to introduce you to a friend. Elena, this is my daughter. The woman turned around, and Jana had to control herself from showing recognition. Eleanor Aragon was exactly like the newspaper photos, blonde, elegant, with cold eyes that assessed everything around her. Nice to finally meet you, Eleanor said, extending her hand. Your father has spoken so much about you. I can. Imagine, Jana replied, squeezing her hand briefly. Elena has been a huge beneficiary of our community, Elias explained. She understands the importance of what we do here. And what exactly do you do here, Jana asked, knowing she needed to ask the right questions for the recording. We save souls, Elijah replied, especially lost souls like yours. I wasn't lost, I was free. Free, Elijah laughed. Daughter, you have been living in sin, working, living alone, rejecting God's teachings. That is not freedom. It is perdition. And what's the alternative? Go back to being your prisoner? Prisoner? Elijah's voice grew harder. I gave you everything, home, food, spiritual education, and most of all, I gave you purpose. What purpose? Serve God through me. Jana felt nauseous but continued. How did I serve before? You know how. Say it. I want to hear you say it. Elijah glared at her. You were my instrument of purification. God showed me that through you I could cleanse my own sins. And how did that work? Jana, stop asking these stupid questions. You know very well how it works. I don't know. Explain it to me. Explain it to Elena, too. She's new here. Elena shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She clearly hadn't expected this conversation. Your father told me you were a rebellious daughter who ran away from home, Elena said. But he didn't go into detail about disciplinary methods. Oh no? Jana turned to Elena. Then let me make this clear. My father had been raping me since I was 12. He said it was God's will, that I needed to be purified through him. The silence in the room was deafening. Elena had visibly paled. Jana, Elijah thundered, how dare you speak of sacred rites like that? Sacred rites? Jana stood up. Is that what you called it when you held me down in bed while I screamed? When you broke my arm because I tried to run away? When you told my mother to give me sleeping pills so I wouldn't resist? Enough. Elijah stood up as well, his face red with anger. You will stop these blasphemous lies right now. These are not lies. Jana pulled up her sleeve, revealing the scars. These marks are real. The pain I felt is real. What you did to me is real. Elena stood up abruptly. I didn't know. Elias, you told me that. Elena, don't believe her, Elias said quickly. She's always been a liar. She's always made up stories to get attention. Then explain the scars, said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned. Dante was standing in the doorway of the room, flanked by two men Jana didn't recognize. How did you get in here? Elijah shouted. Through the front door. Your guards are a little indisposed at the moment. Elena backed up against the wall. Dante, what are you doing here? Seeking the truth. Something you seem to have difficulty doing. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you know? Dante approached her. Don't you know that you made a deal with this man, that you promised to hand me over in exchange for him giving you information on how to destroy my reputation? That's not true, isn't it? Dante pulled a phone out of his pocket. Because I have here a recording of a conversation between the two of you discussing exactly that. Eleanor looked at Elias in panic. You said there would be no recordings. Shut up, Elias hissed. Too late to keep quiet, Eleanor, Dante said, especially after what we just heard. What did you hear? Everything. Dante pointed to Jana's necklace. Every word your friend here said about raping his own daughter was recorded and transmitted to the authorities. Elias moved suddenly, pulling a gun from his jacket pocket. Nobody leaves here. Dad, no! Jana screamed. You ruined everything! Everything I built. Elias pointed the gun at her. But I won't let you destroy my legacy. What legacy? Jana shouted back. A community built on lies, on abuse, on extortion? It was an empire, millions of riets, dozens of properties, and all of it was rightfully mine. It was rightfully mine, Jana corrected. I'm the legal heir. You always knew that. That's why you had to come back, to sign the transfer. What if I refused? Then you would die in a tragic accident, and I would inherit as your only living relative. Elena was leaning against the wall, in shock. Elias, you didn't tell me you planned to kill someone. I wasn't planning on killing anyone, until this little bitch decided to expose everything. Expose what? A new voice joined the conversation. Everyone turned. A woman was standing in the doorway that led to the bedrooms. She was thin, her eyes glassy, but Jana recognized her immediately. Mom, he whispered. Ana Villar approached, with hesitant steps. Jana, is that really you? It's me, Mom. Anna, go back to your room, Elias ordered, but he didn't take the gun off Jana. No. Anna continued to approach. Elias, what's going on here? Nothing that concerns you. Everything that involves my daughter concerns me, Anna was closer now, and Jana could see that despite the medication, there was clarity in her mother's eyes. "Jana, why did you leave? Why did you abandon me?" Jana felt tears burn her eyes. "Mom, I tried to tell you. I tried to tell you what he was doing to me." What was he doing? "Anna, shut up and go back to your room," Elias shouted. "No." Anna turned to her husband, and for the first time in years there was strength in her voice. "Elias, what have you done to our daughter?" "He raped me, Mum," Jana said, her voice breaking, "since I was 12. And you held my arms." Anna turned pale as a sheet. "No, that's not true." "It's true. You gave me sleeping pills. You said it was God's will." I don't remember." Anna put her hands to her head. "Elias, tell me that's not true." "Anna, you were sick. You didn't know what you were doing." "I knew it," Anna suddenly cried, all the medication seeming to leave her system at once. "My God, I knew it and I let it happen." "Mother." "No." Anna turned to Jana, tears streaming down her face. "How can you forgive me? How? Because you were his victim too." "Anna, stop." Elias pointed the gun at his wife. "You're going to shut up or I'm going to have to shut you up." It was at that moment that everything happened at once. Anna threw herself in front of Jana. Dante moved to disarm Elias. The gun went off. Jana's scream echoed through the house as she saw her mother fall to the floor, blood spreading across her pale dress. "No!" Jana knelt beside her mother. "Jana, sorry, Anna whispered. "Mom, stay with me. It's going to be okay." Dante had managed to disarm Elias and had him pinned to the ground. Elena was huddled in a corner, in a state of total shock. "Call." "An ambulance!" Dante shouted to one of the men. Jana held her mother in her arms, trying to stop the bleeding. "Mom, you're going to be okay. We're going to get out of here together." "No, I can't do it." Anna touched her daughter's face with a trembling hand. "But now you're free. Don't talk like that. The money, the property, everything is yours now. Use it for good." "Mom, please." "I love you, Jana. I always have. I was just so scared." Anna closed her eyes and remained still in her daughter's arms. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of sirens approaching. Police, ambulance, official cars. Elias was being handcuffed when he looked at Jana one last time. "You destroyed everything," he said with pure hatred in his voice. "No," Jana replied, still holding her dead mother. "I broke free." The months that followed were a blur of depositions, hearings, legal proceedings, and therapy. Elias was convicted of sexual assault, extortion, and murder. Elena received a lesser sentence for aiding and abetting, but she lost everything she had built. The community was dissolved, the properties sold, the money distributed among the victims identified over the years. Jana inherited a fortune, but, more importantly, she inherited her freedom. It was on a December morning, 6 months after the confrontation, that she woke up in Montevilla's house, now officially hers too since Dante had insisted on sharing the property, and found Dante in the kitchen making coffee. "Good morning," he said, kissing her softly. "Good morning." She leaned against him, breathing in the familiar scent. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than it has been in months." It was true. The nightmares had lessened for both of them. Therapy was helping, and most of all, they had each other. "Dante?" "Yes? Do you regret anything?" He pulled back to look her in the eyes. "What would I do for having gotten involved with such a complicated woman?" "Genevieve, you listen to me." He cupped her face in his hands. "You're not complicated, you're brave, you're strong, you're the most incredible woman I've ever met. Even with all the drama, all the trauma. Mainly because of that. Because it showed me that it is possible to survive anything, and that it is worth fighting for the ones we love." Jana smiled, the first truly happy smile in a long time. "I love you." "I love you too, and I will love you for the rest of my life." "Promise?" "I promise." They kissed there in the kitchen, with the morning sun streaming through the windows, and Jana knew she was finally home. Not in a house made of stone and wood, but in a house made of love, trust, and the promise that she would never be alone again. Outside, Montevilla was waking up to another day, but inside the old house, two people who had lost each other in the world finally found each other, and nothing else mattered. Love had won, finally.